I now call to order the Thursday, August 27th, 2020 meeting of the City of Sugar Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 2, public comment. 2A, are there any citizens who would like to address the commission that have signed up, Christy?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, moving on then to item 3, the minutes. 3A, consideration of and action on the minutes of the July 14th, 2020 meeting. Does anyone have any corrections? I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve, Ms. Taylor.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Yes, Matt, I'll second.
Okay, so Commissioner Landine made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Gallagher. We'll go ahead and vote.
Madam Chair, I'm not signed in at the moment, but I vote in the affirmative.
Well, I am signed in, and for some reason, it's not giving me an option to vote. I'm signed into the agenda and to the minutes. Is there?
We can do a roll call, vote, or hand up.
Well, I think we've got everyone. I would vote affirmatively. Commissioner Landine as well. Dan?
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous, approved unanimously. And I don't know why the option isn't coming up for me to vote, but that would be perfect. Unanimous approval. Then moving on to item 4, public hearing. 4A, receive and hear all persons interested in the proposed rezoning of approximately 1.872 acres from First Step Plan Development PD General Development Plan, Ordinance number 1969, to Plan Development Final Development Plan to develop a small retail center located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Crown Garden Trail and State Highway 6. Laura.
Good evening. So this evening we are talking again about the Tract I, which is a part of the Imperial Development District. So here on the left, you can see the small little square there at Crown Garden Trail and Highway 6. This is across Highway 6 from the airport there on the north side, and it does back up to Oyster Creek. We talked about this briefly in May. Y'all had a workshop on it, May 28th. And so tonight's the public hearing. So we'll be going into a little bit more detail for y'all this evening. Next slide. So again, an overview of the FDP. It's just under 2 acres at Highway 6 and Crown Garden Trail. They are proposing to build a 9,800 square foot retail center. There is included in this FDP, as well as the general development plan, a 65-foot build line that separates the residential that's at Crown Garden in order to give that buffer between commercial and residential. There's also a 65-foot build line from the road. So there's some pretty large setbacks. There is included in there 25-foot landscape reserves, as well as a 10-foot masonry screening wall that's already built along the border with the residential area. The rezoning is in line with the Imperial General Land Plan, as well as the initial First Step PD. And a change, there was gas sales allowed at this area proposed in the original general development plan. However, that has been eliminated per the proposed final development plan. Next slide. So the workshop review, you did hold the workshop on May 28th. Comments that were received included adding material legends, pedestrian access, and trash enclosure to the prospective building drawings. Additionally, adding some of the green landscaping strips that are there along the pedestrian sidewalks to the text, because it was shown in the perspective, not the text. Limiting square footage for the use list for place of worship, as well as some other general information on prospective tenants. And then confirming that trees would be allowed in that waterline easement that's along the east side. Next slide. So here again is the site layout plan. You can see the approximately 9,800 square foot building that will have space for 8 to 9 tenants. There's parking and all the way around it, as well as a trash enclosure on the rear side. And this is divided into the Tract I and Green Belt. So Tract I is the commercial portion with that Green Belt going to the Imperial Redevelopment District eventually. Next slide. The landscape plan does include quite a bit of landscaping, trees all the way around, as well as a 25-foot landscape reserve along the single-family residential line. So there is quite a bit of buffering in order to maintain that more FDP feel. Next slide. The pedestrian and bicycle circulation plan has not changed from what you saw originally. There is a 10-foot shared use trail that does go through the green belt. It currently exists on the on the east side, and is proposed to be extended all the way through on the east side to Crown Garden Trail. Staff is talking amongst themselves, as well as discussing with the applicant what exactly will trigger the building of that 10-foot trail, because it's not technically on the commercial tract, it's on the Greenbelt tract. So we are going to be talking to the applicant about adding some language to the FDP to more firmly trigger the building of that shared use trail with the commercial building. Next slide. So we do have updated perspectives. These perspectives now include material type. So we do have the use materials. It's mostly brick and stone with some metal panels for accents. Next slide. Here on the rear, again, you see mostly stone, some brick, and then the galvanized metal rain barrels is kind of an accent back there. Next slide. And then this area does show what the single family residential would see. So if you saw over that 10-foot brick wall, this is the side of the building that they would see. And again, it's stone and brick primarily. Next slide. Site photographs have not changed even with the hurricane that came. So we still have the 10-foot brick wall, existing 5-foot sidewalks along the single family side. Now the edge of one of the sidewalks as it approaches Crown Garden will need to be altered slightly in order to make room for that driveway. The single driveway that is being accessed from Crown Garden Trail was shifted down a little bit. So some slight alterations to that sidewalk, but it's still primarily all there. Next slide. This is the excerpt from the future land use map. So this is supported by the FDP, regional commercial services. So a retail center fits very well in that land use. Next slide. Public hearing notification was all met. Property owners were notified, HOA and developer notified as well. We did reach out to Johnson Development to make sure that we got all of those new homes. Some of them have residents living in them currently. Some of them are not sold yet, but we did go ahead and send out public hearing notices just in case. We have not received any inquiries, and staff is not aware of any opposition. Next slide. So your main points for consideration tonight, height and setbacks have been edited in the text to provide dimensions closer to what you see in the perspectives. So I believe the height was originally 65 feet, and we asked them to bring that closer to 30 to 35, which is what you'll see in the B1 neighborhood services, which is similar to what is being requested as the use list. The specific use list is tailored to this development. It excludes gas sales and limits the size of studios. And additionally, now a place of worship also has a limited size. Engineering staff has reviewed and concurred with the traffic impact analysis for this site. There's no access to Highway 6. The only access is from Crown Garden Trail. And we do have our engineering staff here on the call if you have any questions for them later. The FDP does also include acreage all the way to Oyster Creek so that we can capture that 10-foot shared use trail in there too. Next slide. The FDP is in alignment with the general land plan, the general development plan, and the future land use plan. The proposed use has always been commercial retail and that's been designated since the land plan was approved in 2007. So this has been the proposed use throughout all amendments to the general land plan. And effective buffering and screening has been established as part of the general land plan for that 65-foot building setback, including a 25-foot landscape reserve. Therefore, staff does recommend hosting the public hearing before we move on with discussion and direction this evening. Staff will be happy to answer any questions for you. We have engineering and traffic on the meeting, as well as the developer and planner, Jerry Olkey and Peter Bosher, for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I will now open the public hearing and ask if anyone is signed up to speak.
No, ma'am.
Okay, did the developer want to make a statement?
Hey everybody, this is Jerry Olkey with Johnson Development. I apologize, I'm having some technical difficulty trying to get my camera to work. It's kicked me off twice. Apologize for that. But I do thank y'all for having us on the agenda tonight, and we're excited to have progress moving along the Highway 6 corridor with this opportunity for this user, and just appreciate y'all's consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no one else that would like to speak from the public or the development side, then I will close the public hearing, and we will move on to review of and discussion on proposed rezoning of approximately 1.872 acres from First Step Plan Development PD General Development Plan Ordinance number 1969 to Plan Development Final Development Plan to develop a small retail center located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Crown Garden Trail and State Highway 6. Does anyone, let me start actually with Suzanne and ask if you have any questions for staff or the developers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I actually do, Laura. It's kind of not about the proposed because I like everything I see. It's kind of curiosity. Laura, why did we take the gas away, the gas station? And I'm glad we did. Do we have gas coming up anywhere on the adjoining acreage? I see office on both of those. So are we just taking gas off that whole area?
Correct. So gas was only allowed at this site and one other site that's farther south along 90. So this just removes gas sales from this location. All the surrounding nearby areas do not have gas as an allowed right per the GDP. So the office, this was the only commercial site that would allow that. So it just removes it from this area too.
Okay, I like that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Andy, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, let's see. I'm trying to remember my order. I think it's Matt next. Matt Gallagher.
I don't have any questions. I think this all looks pretty good. I think the renderings were very helpful. I think it looks great.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Dan.
No, I don't have any questions. I think they did a good job of addressing all of our concerns from May.
Okay, thank you, Dan. How about Apurva?
Madam Chair, I'm also good. This looks really solid to me as well. Thank you.
You bet, absolutely. Taylor?
Same. All good here. Thank you.
Okay, Jay.
No comments or concerns. Thank you.
Carl?
Night. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on.
Yes, I do have comments, questions on this thing. On the Exhibit B, under development regulations, I was a little set back on development regulations. They got a 35-foot ground level, and then they've added, except for chimneys, ornamental, elevators and all this, for another 15 feet. So they're going up 50 feet. But look, I don't know why they got all that other stuff, chimneys and elevator bulkheads. I don't think they're going to have any. But
Carl, what page are you on? I know you're on Exhibit B.
Page 2 of Exhibit B on this, number D. Just comment. I'm not gonna. That's no big deal. But and then I guess on page 3 on the landscape buffers, they talk about in G down there sidewalk protect. Freestanding signs may be located within the required buffers. I don't think they have to, but I was just curious. They didn't show any signage. They got the signs approved in the process, but they don't show any location. If,
So the signage for this FDP would follow standard chapter 4, which is 10 feet setback from the curb.
well, but where's it going to be on the site?
It's going to be anywhere on the site that follows chapter 4. So that's 10 feet setback from the curb, not within 125 feet of another freestanding monument sign.
All right, no problem. I knew you were just going to tell me that. Just see if you were on your toes. Under that same landscape buffer number 3, well, it's number 3 under, that's not land, I guess it is land, or that I1, but anyhow. Shade trees, in addition, all required internal parking lot trees triggered by chapter blah, 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 blah. But there's nothing on their landscape plan that shows where those trees and how they're gonna be, all that, from that perspective.
What number are you looking at?
3, it says shade trees shall have, it gives a minimum 10 foot, I don't have a problem with that. In addition, all required internal parking lot trees triggered by chapter 2, article,
Yes.
are required to have the same deal. But my point is that they're showing the trees on the perimeter, but they're not showing anything except some green paint.
Right. So that would leave it up to the site plan and the developer who eventually does purchase this to decide where exactly they want to put their parking islands.
Well, but if you look at the exhibits 7, 8, and 9, I guess, it's showing, the building front perspective, it's showing all this landscaping. But it's not on their landscaping plan.
Right. So those trees, the interior parking lot trees, would be triggered by the chapter in our dev code that they're referencing, that chapter 2, article 15.
I read that. I don't know what that,
Yeah.
I don't know how that, but there's more than just trees. There's other stuff in that drawing. I assume that's what, they're gonna, so there's nothing, the only thing that's ever mentioned is in regards to the deal is on the edge where they do that figure 1 deal and hedges and stuff. But on this other drawing, they got all kind of landscaping, and it's just a green paint around the building. We don't know what it's gonna look like. So we're not tying anything to the landscape plan, only what's on this drawing back here, and you can't enforce that, 'cause that's the building perspective.
Okay. So we'll ask them to add some more detail to their landscape plan.
That's what I want. Also before I get too far here, on the site plan, exhibit B2, the layout, maybe it's this one, it should be on here. It just got parking marked. There's no layout of how many spaces. So I don't know how many spaces maximum they can do. So I'd like to see a parking plan that doesn't exceed what they can do there. We don't know. The parking spaces are not shown. Need number of spaces shown to make sure parking spaces, are what's required.
So
Can I respond?
I'm not sure that we really need to show the exact layout, but just for engineering to confirm that we have enough space.
Well, if they don't do a layout, they won't know if they can get how many spaces in there, Kathy.
Well, if engineering can look at the space and confirm that they can meet the requirement, I don't think they may want to do diagonal parking. They may want to do head-in. As long as they can meet the requirement for the square footage.
But we're doing this PD, and these exhibits are going to be part of it. And if you don't put the number of space to put them on here, I don't think you got an enforceable PD.
Madam Chair, this is Doug. Just real quickly on that, and then I think with your permission, Peter would like to mention something there too. As far as going into that detail now, enforceability, we already have the code that requires them to be able to park this, so that's not an issue. The PDs that you've approved in the past, there have been a few where the developer knew exactly where they wanted to go, and they've gone ahead and included it. However, there have also been numerous PDs where they've showed the area and labeled it parking. So it's not out of character to have it at this level of detail. However, it's my understanding they have run a little layout to see how it would be. And I think Peter can share, with your permission, a little bit more information.
That's right.
Well, Doug, you covered most of my comments I was going to make, but as you said, typically I've seen the PDs not try to codify the exact parking layout with the document so that you need to move a space or two, you can move it. Or if you need to move a parking island, you can move it as well. Part of it if you want to, part of it become code compliant. And so that's why I think I've seen, and you've seen, the parking layouts more generalized. I mean, this actually was extracted from the plan with exact spaces and simplified for the zoning document.
Well, I guess in your defense, Peter, if you look at your building, like Exhibit B7, building front perspective, there's things on that drawing that's not on this drawing. So I don't know what what you're doing.
Well, there certainly is required parking trees and landscape that are in the basic development code that are compliant in addition to the PD requirements.
All I'm saying is we got an Exhibit B7, for example, that's the front building, front perspective. Has got some stuff there that's not on this drawing, not on B2. So which one are you going to do? I mean, you got some landscaping in the middle, or at least it's showing it another, not these two ends. So what are we doing here?
I mean, is it a problem to even note on that it's intended just to show the building front perspective and that the landscaping will meet the landscaping list? I mean, they've got the shrubs, and that it's not intended to depict exact landscaping or exact parking layout.
Yes, we can add that note, Kathy.
That would be perfect. I mean, the bottom line is, Carl, that they're going to have to meet the parking requirements.
That's not my question now. I'm past that. I can understand that. But he's got a drawing, he's got exhibits in this here package that we're approving that the layout of it doesn't agree with the layout on this B2.
I'm trying to figure out where it doesn't agree.
Well, just looking there, you got the corner there. That I agree there. But you go down a ways and there's a spot comes out in the middle where that car's out on B7. That's not shown on this B2.
So there are a couple extra interior parking lot islands and peninsulas that are shown in the perspectives as part of
these are
not shown on B2.
PD. It's going to be an ordinance. And so I think you either take it off here on B7 or it's got to match. It doesn't make sense. That's the purpose of a PD. You can't do brick and stone and then put up, hardy plank. You don't do that.
Well, Carl, I believe B7 is intended to show the building front perspective, and it does commit to stone, brick, stucco.
I understand that, Kathy, but the parking lot has got different things than it shows. If they took out that deal there in the middle, then it's okay. They got the corners or whatever you want to call it. I don't care.
Yes, so Carl, are you asking for them to remove the parking lot and landscaping detail from the building perspectives?
Or are you talking about the little shade thing that comes out from the stucco area, or I'm confused about exactly what you're.
I think, Madam Chair, I think what Carl's talking about is some of these additional little peninsulas and things. And what I'd like to commit to is that we'll work with Peter a little closer I think we can have that matched up just a little bit closer there so that we don't have something really different on that. And I think we can get it to where I think we can get it where we're all comfortable on that.
That's all I'm saying, Doug, is you got exhibits that don't agree with each other.
And then maybe a note that it's intended to depict the building front perspective and not the exact location of
Yes.
Take it off.
And when we've seen some notes like that in the past, I believe we'll be able to get there without a problem.
Because these exhibits are part of the PD that gets done in the ordinance, correct?
That's correct. And so we will work with them to match up a little closer. And we'll also, though, have them clarify on it that these are the purpose of those elevation drawings are related to the building and not related to landscape.
Well, it's easy enough just to eliminate that one piece, and it agrees in with this deal, their site layout plan. All right.
What else do you have, Carl?
On these, start with B2 again, back to that. These, you got all of these 10-foot pipeline easements, water line, 20-foot sanitary sewer line. You just put them in there, and there's dash line, but there's no arrows, I call it, that shows, for example, the 20-foot, like a 20-foot sanitary easement. Where does it go from to? You know, they should be like you do on a normal plat or something to depict where that easement's from where to where. There's lines on here, but you know, you can't tell. I can't tell the 16-inch water line, the 16-foot water line easement. I have no clue where it starts and stops. And there's a 20-foot, so you need to.
Yeah, we'll add those arrows in there.
On all of them, there's easements over here, up against the single family.
Yes, add it to all the easements.
All of that needs to be put on these, on this drawing. And I need to see, hold on a minute. When did I say that? And they need to be carried through on every drawing because you got them on those same things on each exhibit. I assume if you make one of them that way, it'll go through all of them. Okay. All right. That gets me through B2. I said this before, and one or the other of these, the liquor store or the place of worship under these deals, one of them is going to be eliminated by whoever gets there first. So I don't know why we're doing it. My concern is, I don't know how many, the place of worship, how is that going to impact parking?
If they do it, they have to meet it. If they can't meet it, they can't do it. That's just the fact.
So you're going to determine on the maximum 1,000 square feet of worship, how many people can attend there?
Well, the place of worship, their parking ratio is not based on the full 1,000 square feet. It's based on their gathering area. So however big their sanctuary is, they have to park it at a more specific ratio for how many people can fit in the sanctuary. So it would depend on how exactly they plan to build out the tenant space. And that's when we would look at that to see if they can move in there at that time.
And that'll determine then if they meet the parking requirements, right?
And if they can physically actually move in there.
Okay. Bear with me, I've got notes all over the place. The bottom of page 3 under F, pedestrian and bicycle circulation and side path trails 1A, it says a 10-foot wide side path is required along State Highway 6. Nowhere on any of these exhibits have they shown that. I assume they're going to have to build that.
Yes, that's the 10-foot shared use trail that's highlighted in dark red.
Along Highway 6. There's nothing
Yes.
on any of these exhibits that show me out there along Highway 6.
That's the closest that it'll be allowed to be built on. It won't be in the right of way of 6. So they've correctly showed it on their property.
Well, but it's,
That's along the property line where Highway 6 is.
That's a massive right of way, a lot of green space there.
where I see the highway, that's not, it's this green space, or whatever you want to call it, back to this 10-foot pipeline easement?
That's all right of way.
That's all Highway 6 right away?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner recalled the workshop that in my presentation, I noted there's like 100 feet from the edge of paving of State Highway 6 to the right-of-way line of State Highway 6, which is highly unusual.
Okay. Well, from this, you can't, it's hard to. So this red 10-foot, that's what that's talking about.
Yes, sir.
That's a long ways from Highway 6 to be, say it's adjacent or required along Highway 6. That's why I expected to see it out here by the road.
Well, would you like them to add along the, I don't know how you could clarify it more, along the,
I don't know, it's so far away from Highway 6.
Well, it's away from the Highway 6 paving as it exists now, but the right of way exists all the way up to that pipeline.
Well, then show that that's Highway 6 right away, then maybe. Like
it's in the written portion.
Where? It's not on any exhibit.
Well, I guess in the staff report is what I'm thinking, but it's not on.
These exhibits don't tell me where the Highway 6 right-of-way is at.
We can add that to the text on page 3 to say a 10-foot wide side path is required along State Highway 6 right-of-way. Right now, it just ends at 6.
But then add the right-of-way out on one of on like exhibit B6 or some of these, B4, I don't care where you add it. There's nothing that says that's Highway 6 right-of-ways.
Yeah, we can work out, add a label there to that
right
green space right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just show that that's Highway 6 right-of-way. I mean, then be all right. Okay.
Right away in the courthouse.
Highway 6.
And then on top of page 4, the existing 10-foot wide shared use trail, blah, 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 shall extend to intersect the sidewalk along State Highway 6. I don't think that's what.
I believe that's an error. It should be to intersect the sidewalk along Crown Garden Trail.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's an error.
Okay. And why are we doing these under pedestrian walkways now down here under these lighted with pedestrian scale fixtures not less, blah, 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 determined at site plan review? What is that? Who determines that?
This is the standard language we've had in all the recent PDs. I know we've talked to you all about that some. The staff follows the development code during the site plan review, and we'll also look with the applicant on the most appropriateness. There's flexibility in that, but that is the standard process for all the commercial that doesn't go through a PD or that does go through the PD. So,
but when are you, because you can't wait till you started construction or something to decide where the lights are going to be.
You can't start construction without a site plan.
And a building permit. So there's a lot of checks and balances. We have that well covered internally. And we, of course, have to follow this as one of the requirements, as well as those other additional processes. So not doing anything in this that is not pretty standard. Just want to make sure y'all understand that.
If they want to tear up their driveway to get the lights in, I don't care. Okay. Under the bicycle parking, required minimum number of bicycle parking place shall be 3. Let's see. There's no, then they say that they're going to do 3 spaces. Shall include the racks, blah, blah. So they're not, nowhere on any of these exhibits are they showing anywhere those bicycle racks are going to be.
Right, so that leaves it up to, at the site plan, at the site plan point in the process, the FDP requires them to put a bicycle rack with a minimum of 3 spaces, and that location will be determined at the site plan process.
It doesn't say that here. Doesn't say anything about it.
So that's because the location doesn't need to be determined yet. They want to leave that flexibility up to when they move forward with the actual developer.
Well, you said you would determine at the site plan on the lights, so why can't you say you're going to determine at the site plan review on the bicycle racks?
Okay, we can add in that line.
Otherwise, if for an answer, they never get done. And under the PD, there's nothing to enforce that you got. They say that.
The fact that it's written here in the PD means it's required.
So I'm confused about what we're even talking about. It's under bicycle parking.
Yes, it nowhere in the bicycle parking section does it say where the location needs to be.
Or are they on any exhibit, where they're going to be. But they're saying they're going to be, now they're saying they're going to be determined at the site plan review.
So we can add a letter that says location to be determined at site plan
review.
Just like under the line.
Okay. I'd like to see a little more detail over here on page 6, somewhere under exterior equipment. Has to do with their, where's it at here? Like the trash enclosure shall be located, masonry construction with an opaque gate. I think I'd like to see more detail than what that, that could be how, just spin up some kind of stuff and not do it, not look right. So I think they need more detail on that.
Commissioner, recall that was for your workshop, you asked that we add that to the B9 perspective.
Ask what?
It was asked at the workshop that the perspective be adjusted to show the trash enclosure to the rear. And so you'll see that on exhibit B9.
Oh, I understand. I see it. But I'm saying over here, it just says masonry construction with an opaque gate. I don't know what that is. That could be, brick, hollow brick, or those, I think brick, but just stacked up there and no paint, no nothing. And, I'm just saying there need to be more detail. We've made them sometimes put in brick ones and all of that stuff. I understand, you don't want to get you. But the only thing we see is on B9, a still out there. I can't tell what that masonry is, and, from that drawing. So I'm saying I want more detail of what that is made of. Because it's out there in the middle of nowhere.
It does say the last item there, complementary design, color, and materials to the building.
So you painted the same color as some of the building, that's all. But that's not.
Well, it says materials too. My guess is that if it says design, color, and materials, it needs to meet all 3 of those. Am I
Correct.
correct in, okay.
No, that is how we would apply it at the site plan process. It would need to be made of the same stuff as the building.
And I can see maybe under number 2, masonry construction with an opaque gate as depicted in B9, if you want to add that. And then it's clarified by the following: complementary and design, color, and materials to the building.
Yeah, how long is that string? But that's all right. Let me get back to the exhibits. I still have some comments over there.
Okay, I just want to clarify something here. We're correcting an error in Exhibit B where it should be Crown Garden Trail, and I missed where that should be. Is that on page 4?
Yes, it's at the top of page 4, at the very end of that first paragraph under letter B. It says, the last line says, intersect the sidewalk along State Highway 6.
Okay, I see it. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure I had it right. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, let me finish these exhibits and I'll shut up here in a minute. On B6, I just, again, on all the exhibits, label all of those easements that are like we talked about.
Mhm.
Arrows and stuff. The, you've got over here on the, in the single family deal, you got a note that says relocate existing sidewalk. Well, but your drawing and your legends says that it's a proposed 5-foot pedestrian walkway. I want if the legend's over here, then the explanation over here needs to be the same.
So you want them to change it to relocate existing walkway instead of sidewalk?
Relocate existing pedestrian walkway.
Pedestrian walkway, okay.
5-foot pedestrian walkway. That's what the legend says. And that's what it is, that existing one. And you got utility pole, your photo shows there's more than one, so I don't know if you want to add them going down there just for grins or not.
That utility pole that they're calling out is actually a utility pole that's moving. That's why it's called out.
It's doing what?
It's being relocated in order to make room for the driveway.
It doesn't say that, it just says utility pole.
So we'll add in that note.
Utility pole is being moved or relocated. I just assumed it was just showing where they were at, and it didn't show the other ones. Doesn't say it's been moved. Doesn't say it. It says
Carl, this is Jerry Olkey. That pole is an existing pole, and the reason it's specifically called out on this exhibit is to explain why the trail system is being relocated, as opposed to today, that existing sidewalk comes straight out and meets with the existing sidewalk along Crown Garden Trail, which we did to complete the loop where we had the trail along Oyster Creek. We didn't want to have a dead end until this commercial was built, so we built the sidewalk that came straight out. With the road being proposed to come in to avoid the Esplanade opening and the changes that are being done with the Esplanade there going out towards Highway 6, we just wanted to show the segment of the sidewalk that must be relocated and realigned to avoid the utility pole. And the utility pole is more just shown so y'all know why we're realigning and why it's getting up close to the fence. It's just to make all the driveway, the utility pole, and the 5-foot sidewalk all fit along that area right there. That was the purpose of it, and not showing every pole continuing all the way out to Oyster Creek. It was just to show why that conflict was moving right there and not being more center line oriented between the fence and the driveway at that location.
So Jerry, just to confirm, that utility pole is not being moved or relocated?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
All, that's where the power lines go across Crown Garden and go over to the commercial that's on the south side of Crown Garden, and then they make a jog to the east and go over adjacent to the section. I believe it's section 2A of Crown Garden Trail, and provides power to those lots that are next to the lake out there in the middle. And so we do not want to be disrupting power to existing homes. So that pole will be staying put, and we will just be again realigning and shifting the sidewalk to fit through there. But again, we just wanted people to understand that we're not, just arbitrarily tucking that sidewalk up tight to the fence, because some people start asking, well, why are you getting so close to the fence? Why aren't you in the middle? And things of that nature. So that's the reason that pole is shown.
To explain the job. Okay.
You had to make it so you could get into this site.
Yes, sir. To make the driveway work with that esplanade. When we sold the land to Meritage Homes to build Crown Garden, that loading depth of that left turn lane getting onto Highway 6 was increased more than LJA had anticipated in the beginning, which made that esplanade longer than we had anticipated in the original conceptual plan. And therefore, that created this need, because there were already the land transaction had happened, the houses are already built and occupied there, and therefore we've worked with engineering as to the modifications and to allow for a eastbound left turn lane into this commercial reserve. So we appreciate Sugarland's engineering staff working with us to actually have a eastbound entry road into this track.
Thank you, Jerry. Anything else, Carl?
Yeah, I'm confused on this red deal here. One place you got a 10-foot side path with 15-foot pedestrian access easement that parallels Highway 6, and then on the other side, it's on the Orchard Creek Greenbelt, says 10-foot shared use trail. So which is it? And, shouldn't it be the same?
So that label that they're showing there, I believe that side path and shared use trail, that terminology can be changed so that it matches, but it's includes the 15-foot pedestrian access easement because that exists along Highway 6, whereas it doesn't exist along the Greenbelt.
Where does it stop?
It's the straight vertical lines. We can add the arrows just like we would for
Okay, it's confusing. I mean, just all I'm saying.
Okay, so now I'm confused. I'm sorry. So one is really depicting a proposed shared use trail and the other one is for...
They're both 10-foot proposed. One of them says 10-foot side path. One of them says 10-foot shared use trail.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Those align.
The one down in front that parallels Highway 6 says within 15-foot pedestrian access easement.
Right. So we're just going to pull that label off of there and switch it to an easement label, just like the rest of the easements, with the arrows showing this is where the easement is.
But you still reflect the 10-foot side path or wherever.
Yeah, and change side path to shared use trail so it matches the northern part.
Okay. Just
Gotcha.
make it all agree.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have it right down here.
Yeah. All righty. I'll quit.
Okay. I have one question. Just, you had said that you're going to try to include some language that will trigger when the shared use trail is put in. Have you worked out a proposal for that, or can you kind of know what the proposal would be at the next?
So staff has discussed it internally, but we haven't yet talked to Peter or Jerry yet. But we are anticipating having that shared use trail have to be built before you can get the certificate of occupancy for the commercial building. So it would have to be built before you can use the building.
And Madam Chair, this is Jerry, and it is part of our sales contract with this buyer that they will be extending the trail along Oyster Creek. So it will all be going in at the same time.
But yes, so but we were anticipating adding some language underneath where it's describing the path when it would have to be built.
So it sounds like before a certificate of occupancy is
that would be agreeable to us. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So just go over what I have down, just to add more detail to the landscape plan, to work with the developer to add clarification to exhibits B2 and B7, and I'm not sure what that means now.
Yes, that's the landscaping is shown differently in the perspective than on the.
I'm glad you understand my notes better than I do, Laura. Thank you. Add arrows on all the exhibits to designate where the easements start and stop. Add a label showing the Highway 6 right-of-way. Correct the error on page 4, Exhibit B, Item B, from State Highway 6 to Crown Garden Trail. Add under bicycle parking on page 4, number 3, that in Exhibit B that the location is to be decided at site plan review. On item B6, we're going to relocate existing sidewalk to 5-foot pedestrian walkway. And then on B6, we're going to make the terminology the same for shared use trail and side path, right?
Correct.
Is there anything I missed?
That's everything that I have.
Carl?
Including the removing the elevator bulkhead detail to the height of the building.
Okay.
An elevator for a 1-story building.
Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Doug. I wanted to find out if we could, since Peter was on the call still too, if our development code as far as dumpster doors right now, just the standard code talks about opaque, minimum 6 feet, and I believe it's a choice of wood or metal or other type. I wondered if Peter could give us a feel for what they were planning. We do see painted metal on some of the more high-end. I wondered if we could put this to bed this evening, just since we've talked about it a little bit, with any feedback from Peter. That way we can kind of move forward with some guidance on that to get that knocked down.
I don't know offhand. I can check with the architect.
Okay.
And if need be, we can incorporate that into the text.
Okay.
Peter, it might also be helpful because there were questions to maybe add a label on the perspective where it's shown to show what that material is. Because right now it's not labeled, it just looks similar. So add brick or painted stucco, whichever you intend to build.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, that's what I meant by more detail on that drawing.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if that's all the comments, then we'll move on to item 5, reports. 5A, Planning and Zoning Commission Liaison Report to the July 21st, 2020 meeting. Who was that?
Oops, sorry, I have that. I filled in for Jay. Is that right, Jay? Okay, so that meeting had 3 items regarding P&Z issues. The first was, hang on my notes. The first was the development code. We talked about Ordinance 2201, adopting revisions to the Hill HR1 zoning district regulations in the development code. We discussed that on June the 9th and recommended that passed, and City Council passed it unanimously. The second issue was the issue we talked about Also on June 9th, the Lakeview Street rezoning. We talked about as ordinance 2202, providing a change to zoning from R1 to HR1. And that was just the north side of Lakeview Drive, which was pretty cut and dry. It was easy. They also approved that unanimously. And the last one was something we talked about way back in May. It was the Grants Lake Tempo Section 2. It was rezoned to match Section 1, which was from R1 to a PD. It was a 4.763 acres, and that went by really fast and passed right away. So that was a second hearing, and it passed. So that was all I have for the 21st.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Watley. And then the 2 city council meetings report for those for August 4th, 2020 and August 18th, 2020.
That was me, Madam Chair. 2 items that were on the agenda in that first meeting was the Lake Point Parkway and Creek Bend Drive issue. They had their second consideration on that. They discussed it. There wasn't a whole lot new that was added to that discussion. And then there was also the first public hearing on the office buildings at Grand Parkway and East River Park Drive. There were several comments about that, a couple of which started to derail into a section to get the homeowners association to approve the drawings. They eventually backed off of that and continued forward with the discussion. But there were no significant changes outside of having them talk about the fence and who's responsible for it. There were a couple of council members that wanted the developer to forever be responsible 100% for the fence. I honestly don't know what happened with that, because in the next meeting, it fell in second consideration to consent agenda. So there must have been some behind the scenes discussions around that, because they didn't discuss it in the next meeting. And that was the only item that was P&Z related in the city council meetings.
Okay, thank you, Andy. We will move on to item B, city staff report.
Yes, it's looking like, as far as the September 8th meeting, we've had 1 or 2 things that aren't ready yet. And based on kind of where we are in the zoning process, it looks like that meeting may be able to be canceled. So we will verify that, and we'll be getting back with you soon on that. And that's all we have this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is that you, Matt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, second, Jay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Just a show of hands. I think it's unanimous. We are now adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Friday.